All right, so what I'm going to do, it is now 6:05, so I'm going to get started. I'll probably just start with an introduction, and there's about another 20 people trying to log in as we speak. They can just join in as we go. So I guess, guys, first of all, thank you very much for joining us here tonight. We're trying to run this as best we can. If there are some glitches, we apologise. We've had a good crash course in Zoom over the last couple of days to a week. But we'll do our best to make sure that you see all the information that you need to see and hear from the people you need to hear from. I guess a couple of things. We do not have all the answers for you tonight. We've chosen 3 or 4 topics to speak about in particular. We chose to do that specifically because they were some of the most common questions that we've been fielding. Today's address from the Prime Minister is probably going to pose even more questions. I'm going to try and touch on that a little bit myself. As well for you tonight, but we still need to digest a lot of that over the coming 48 hours. This meeting is being done as a follow-on from our last meeting we did last week for all our landlords. A little bit different from last time though, we have opened it up to a lot of the general public, and that was just a little bit of an opportunity. We know there are a lot of estate agents out there that maybe don't have the resources or the experience that our team does. We also know that there are a lot of private landlords out there at the moment that are really lost for advice. So welcome to all our landlords. Welcome back to the ones that joined us the other night, and also to everyone else who's tuning in. We hope you can get some relevant information from this. Just bearing in mind this that a lot of what we're going to talk about is industry specific, but a lot will also be to our company specific too. So for those of you who are managing properties through other agents at the moment or private managing, just be aware some of what we're talking about is our specific guidelines. A couple of quick little things. We are going to have a time for Q&A at the end. So on that, please, if you've got any questions, if you haven't used Zoom before, if you wave your mouse around down the bottom of the screen, there is a Q&A section. Please put your questions in there because they will collate for us. At the end, we will try and answer as many of those as possible in the time allowed. For those questions that we can't get to or we can't answer or we don't have answers for yet, we will come back to you either via another one of these seminars, or we'll put them out as fast as we can via email. We have got everyone on mute as well, just so you're aware. We will unmute some of our staff as we need them to get involved, but that's just help with bandwidth and performance and so forth. Look, in general, I'm going to probably get started if we can, and if you're happy with that, Kirst, we're going to roll into our first topic, current market conditions. Kirsty Patterson is with us. Kirsty is our head of property management. We also have, just so you're aware on your screen, Zoe Clarkson, Carla Hudgwell. We also have me, which is Gabby, Alicia Collett, and also Brett. They are your property manager portfolios, and Britt is the assistant in the property management team at the moment. And I'm going to ask them to chime in a little bit from time to time tonight as well. So first of all, Kirsty, I'm going to hand it over to you. Can you give a little bit of a rundown on the general market conditions that we are still currently seeing at the moment from a landlord's perspective?
Yeah, thanks, Pete. So our current market conditions are very good in the property management department at the moment. So we've leased 7 properties over the last week, and we've leased 16 for the month. So that's quite an average month for us. So we've been happy with that result with what's going on at the moment. We've received 25 applications this week and 24 the week before. So once again, good numbers. Our average applications normally would sit at around 20. So those numbers are good. Only other thing is, I guess we've made a slight adjustment to our higher priced rental properties that are available at the moment, and that's helped a lot. So we found that we have leased them a lot faster just by making that slight adjustment. We've also had a lot of inquiry, I guess, coming in from people that have recently sold properties and needing to move, and also people from out of the area. So there's been, I guess, a broad range of prospective tenants coming through. And I guess all in all, our tenants are staying really positive. We're communicating with them a lot, but we feel that their outlook on all of this is good, and they're letting us know when they can and can't pay rent, which has been great.
It's probably a little bit fair to say, Kirsty, a bit similar to, bit similar to landlords. 95% of our tenants so far have being very understanding of everything that's going on, but are actually staying really upbeat. You know, there are a few that have obviously reacted in a negative way, but we're dealing with those. And we're trying to deal at the moment on a case-by-case scenario because where everyone is going to be affected a little bit differently. That's probably fair, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So in general, as much noise as that is going on at the moment, the general market at the moment is actually still ticking along really quite well. You know, and we'll talk about inspections in a minute, but the amount of people out looking to rent is really quite good. I guess this is a landlord night, but everyone's also curious about how their values of their properties or the sales market is. I have to tell you, the sales market is actually the same. We have sold, we've listed or brought to market, I think 24 or 25 new listings to the market so far this month, which is about average for us. Normally this time of year, we might like to do 30, but generally speaking, there's been a lot of new property coming to the market, and we've done 21 sales. And I know there are at least 2 more contracts being negotiated today that I think we'll get across the line. So the sales market is moving along really well. Some interesting things I just want you to all understand, and that is that over the last couple of months, we have sold, and the real estate industry in general have sold a lot of property for the last 3 months, and a lot of those buyers have still not yet bought homes. And for a lot of them, they want to actually get in and buy now because they want the comfort and security of knowing they've got a home, and they don't want to be left out in the dark. They don't want to be renting. They know renting's going to get probably tough as well. So there is still a really good market, and that could flow on for a little bit. So fingers crossed at the moment, we're still seeing some really good signs in the sales market, and our sales guys are as active as ever. They're all working from home, as you can see. Our property managers are as well, but the market's ticking along generally pretty good. Another interesting thing had been we have also seen already a couple of clients coming out of inner city suburbs that have been making the comment that they're looking to get into less highly populated areas and looking to move to the country. Now, that's quite interesting because we had seen very similar situations during the GFC. Now, I know this is a different economical crisis, but during the GFC, we had a similar thing where people were actually looking to sell up in their more expensive areas and suburbs that they were struggling to afford and move to a more easy, affordable climate or economy or landscape. So it could be really interesting to see how our market goes. If the GFC is anything to go on, we may see even more renewed interest, both from a rental perspective, but also from a sales perspective, as people start to wonder whether they really want to live in a lot of these highly populated locations. So I do have, guys, so you're aware, I have a little bit of a timer that is going on in my corner. The whole point of this Landlord 5x5 topic or setup was so that, one, the girls were worried that I might baffle on for too long about too much stuff, but also, two, because we know there is so much to talk about that if we didn't put a time cap on it, we might struggle. So I'm going to move on to topic number 2, so inspections and leasings. Now, obviously, effective a few days ago, estate agents could not do open homes anymore. But outside of that, we have been told to keep working. So obviously, as a company, we put in some protocols, which I spoke about in our last meeting. We're all working from home. But outside of that, other than no open homes, we are still doing inspections and doing leasings as per normal. We had a number of inspections on the weekend. I'm going to throw over to Zoe. Yep, Zoe's off muted. Zoe, can you just talk to our landlords about, one, how you went about the inspections on the weekend, and two, how it was received by the tenants?
Yeah, so it was received really well by all the tenants. So we had quite a few inquiries come through the week for our properties that are up for lease at the moment. So we just booked them all in as individual inspections. So we had 8 properties that we did inspections at. For example, one of the properties, I had 6 individual groups come through. So we just had everyone spaced 5 minutes apart, so no one was overlapping at all. When I got there, I had just a bit of a rules list stuck on the door so people could read that before they went through. And I also just wore gloves and just made sure that I opened up all the doors and cupboards and everything. Just then when people came through, they didn't have to touch anything at all.
Well done. So the inquiry and the inspection levels are still really quite strong. If you haven't received it, we can send it out to you. Obviously, for the protection of our own staff, we have implemented changes in the way our inspections are done and social distancing and so forth. The one thing I'm really proud to say at the moment is that the public seem to have cottoned on to this social distancing. And so far, we've seen a lot of respect in that level, because obviously we have two different hats here. We have a hat of making sure that we look after our clients, but I also have an objective to make sure that my staff and my team are well looked after, and they're healthy and safe as well. So we've put in some really strict hygiene policies for our team in terms of sanitising before they go into homes and wearing gloves, etc. And they're also staying outside the property and communicating with any questions at a distance outside the property if need be. Videos are also being used, and Zoe, chime in if I don't cover this right, but we have done on all of your vacant properties. So any of the landlords who have vacant homes, we went out and did a video walkthrough on the properties, and we've actually been emailing those or sending those through to tenants. And in fact, a lot of tenants are happy to apply for properties without physically seeing the property with those. So renting is very different to buying, and a lot of tenants are quite happy to just get a general overview. And those videos have been working really well, and we do have them there for marketing purposes in the event of this gets even further down the track. So that's been working really well, hasn't it, Zoe?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Excellent. So in terms of, I think we covered the amount of inspections, Zoe, did we? We went over how many people we had through?
So on the weekend, I think Carla was going to go through that. Is that right?
Thank you. Carla, can you run through our stats on how many people we've actually had active over the weekend or this week?
Thank you. So this week we've had 25 inspections with 18 groups through. The week prior to that, we had 29 inspections with 15 groups through. So these numbers are in good comparison to the number of properties we're available to inspect at the moment. So all the tenants are applying through for properties online, and then we're just continuing our online paperless versions as well.
Fantastic. So 25 inspections with 18 groups through. The numbers are still good, guys. So I know a lot of our landlords have been asking, are there tenants? Are there tenants? Yes, there are, and they're still quite active. And the quality, from what I've heard, has been quite good too. I'm getting the nod for Carla. She's muted herself already.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've been good quality potential applicants too. Great. All right. We're ticking along pretty well there at the moment. I think, look, from a leasing perspective, guys, everything at the moment is happening as per usual. So that part of our business, other than trying to be a little bit more remote, currently, as we stand today, still is happening as per it was before. So just be aware that part of our business currently has not changed. I'm going to roll down to our next topic, guys. Here, what have we got? Financial hardship. Now, this is obviously the biggest, and I'm seeing on screen here that we've already had 5 questions in relation to financial hardship. So I can't read all the questions at the moment, the way we've got this set up. So we will try and come back to them, but I may answer some of them for you. Everyone is aware we're going through financial hardship, and the hard part, sadly, is that we are all going to feel this. And we've had this conversation in our own team today. We've had very open conversations in every one of our departments that this thing will not be by prejudice. It is going to affect everybody. It is going to affect landlords. It is going to affect tenants. It is going to affect business owners and the like. We are not immune. You know, as rents come down, if they come down, or we have to adjust rents, we're going to earn less money. Our property managers will earn less money. This will touch everyone. Most people we are dealing with so far understand that and have been really patient. We have had some tenants that don't want to realise that everyone else is going through it. We have actually just sent out a video message to all our tenants, and we may, Kirst, we might forward that through to our landlords as well so they can see how we've communicated to them. But we sent that out after last night's address from ScoMo, because we knew after this 6-month moratorium, I struggle to say that word, but we knew that there were going to be quite a few tenants react to that. So what we have said to them is take a deep breath, and we're going to say the same to you. I cannot get over the generosity from a lot of our landlords. We have had a number of landlords ring saying we want to offer discounted rent or free rent or rent-free periods. Guys, you are amazing. Thank you so much. But just be aware, at the moment, we're asking you to just pause. Today's address during the day with ScoMo's new release of, what's he calling it, the JobKeeper stimulus, that may change the advice I was going to give you tonight. We have developed, and I might get Kirsty to go through it, the one thing, and we've had a couple of questions prior to asking, how do we know who is genuinely going through hardship and how do we know who is just taking the mickey out of it? We are very aware that in these times you sometimes see vultures, and we are putting in a process in place to deal with that. We're also very aware that we are going to have some tenants who are genuinely, absolutely distraught. We also are very aware that some of you are going to be in the same predicament, okay? Last night's address gave us no real relief. It spoke mostly about commercial and commercial businesses and commercial properties. Other than this 6-month leeway, it didn't really address residential. So, Kirsty, guys, so you're aware, what we have done is we've created what we call a hardship form. That form we are going to ask our tenants to fill out. Now, we already have had to ask a few to do it. What it's there for is to, one, push the pause button and ask our tenants to just stop. There are already packages available to people who are going through hardship from the government. We want to make sure they've done that first. We don't want people just taking straight from your pockets. We want to make sure that they've also looked at the other areas that they can get support in. And of course, there is also the new stimulus package, which I need to digest more and I need to get more information on before I really dive into that for you. Kirsty, can you run us through this hardship form?
Yes, so it's just a form that we're going to ask tenants to complete that will help us determine the level of hardship. So we'll be asking them questions about the household, so how many people are affected. There may be one person that's lost their job and one person that's still employed. We'll also be asking, have they contacted Centrelink? Have they looked at their superannuation options? And also ask them for copies of their pay slips. So all of this information will help us determine how much hardship they're in and also for how long. So if they have lost their job, we'll be asking them when that happened and how long they expect that to be for. So it could be that they're not unemployed, that they've just been stood down from their current job. And they're all the things that we need to know so that we can make a decision with you as to the hardship that's involved.
And the latest stimulus package, if you haven't seen it, the JobKeeper support that ScoMo has announced today is $1,500 a fortnight from what I've heard and read so far. But we're not 100% sure how that's going to play out. There are some rules around that. We need to study that a little bit more, but we're hoping that should actually be what we can fall back on in terms of supporting rent payments, because it is a very, in my opinion, and I'm sorry to get political on you, but it is a really generous support package. And so far, I have been very impressed with the way the Australian government has reacted to it. I know it's not perfect, sorry to get political, but these are really unusual times. And if anyone can figure out a way through it, you know, we've got to do it together. So that could be interesting. Obviously, the moratorium on evictions on 6 months, I am out of time, but I'm going to just touch on that. The moratorium on evictions for 6 months, and Kirsty, jump in if you disagree with me here, but we still have not got enough information on that to really guide you through it perfectly. We are waiting on more information from the Australian government. We've been in communication with the Real Estate Institute of Victoria. The reality is, from what I can tell in everything I've read and listening to the address, is there is a bit of a common sense approach to this. It is very clearly stating that there's no evictions to be done through cause of hardship through COVID. So that won't excuse any of the previous potential evictions that we've been going through or notices that we've been going through. It certainly doesn't excuse evicting people for other reasons. It is absolutely due to that hardship. And that's why it was so important. And Kirsty and the team have worked really hard to get this hardship form created so that we can absolutely try and identify where best, while being fair, who is going through hardship and who is not, who is being genuine and who is not. Until we get more advice around this 6-month moratorium, that is maybe the best we can summarise that for you for now. Anything else you want to add on that, Kirst?
No, I think it's just that I guess there's rent assistance available through Centrelink, so that's something else that we'll be looking at when we're assessing the affordability.
Beautiful, thank you. All right, how a tenant will move in. This should be a fairly quick topic, and then we maybe can get to some questions. I actually didn't want this to be on the agenda because it's actually not, also I'm going to rephrase that. A lot of landlords are asking us, in the event of a lockdown, how will we move tenants into homes if you've got a vacant home at the moment? It's been a really common question, or if you know your property's coming up to be vacant. The reality is we do not know what a lockdown is going to look like in Australia. Every country at the moment, from what I can read and tell, and I've laughing with the girls, I'm not normally a great studious person, but I've read more over the last week than I've ever read before. But we actually don't know what the rules of our lockdown are going to be. I was fortunate enough to be on the phone with a number of our colleagues in New Zealand yesterday. I spent a lot of time talking with a number of friends and associates that I know there. I was also fortunate to listen into a webinar that was conducted with one of New Zealand's biggest estate agencies. Their lockdown, New Zealand's lockdown, is a complete lockdown. There is no one moving in and out of tenants. It doesn't happen. But Australia has responded very different to New Zealand. So we may enter a lockdown that actually still allows housing to be a part of the essential services, and we may be able to move tenants in or out. So for the landlords that are asking that, we can't really give you a solid advice because we don't know. What we have done is a couple of little precautions. We have invested in a number of key safes and lock boxes that we're going to plant at vacant properties once we receive them. We've got to get them yet. So in the event that tenants are still allowed to move in and out of properties during a lockdown, at least there may be that availability, but it may be a waste of money because it might be irrelevant. But we are working on some of those. We're also working pretty hard to bring any of our tenancies forward where possible. So if we can speed up moving tenants in, that is what we're doing at the moment. So that's our plan, bringing everything forward as much as possible. We are working on vacant properties. They've also been doing a lot of ingoing condition reports early. Normally we do an ingoing condition report literally the day before a tenant moves in, and that is to just stop, because often there might be a bit of dust that settles and etc. Gardens that need weeding. At the moment, we've actually gone forward and done a lot of those early, just so that we have at least something to rely on in the event that we need to speed to, these vacant properties up for you and get tenants into them ASAP. Girls, Kirsty, anything else you want to touch on that? No, I'm getting the shake. We're good. All right, so guys, we're now going to go into a little bit of Q&A for you. And bearing in mind, I may have to adjust my screen a little bit to read some of these. So I'm sorry if I'm getting too close to the computer screen for you. Okay, Lisa, I've got a couple here. I've almost lost it. When you get to it, I'm getting to it, Lisa, thank you. What is the latest on landlords carrying the burden on rent that renters don't pay? There really isn't any. Other than the package that has just come out today, there has been no instructions from the Australian government regarding rent relief. We've been told, and listening to the address, I'm only going what everyone else has been able to hear because there's been no literature come out to me yet. I am assuming at the level of that JobKeepers package that they are hoping that will reduce a lot of that burden. It won't reduce it for everyone. In respect to the people that does not assist, at the moment there is still no answer on that. I know the commercial, if you did watch the address last night, in the commercial world, they left it pretty open-ended too. They pretty much said, go and work it out. I know they are, and through our governing body, we've been assured that the Australian government are working very hard with the banks at the moment to work on whether they can pause freeze mortgages, etc. So at the moment, there is no exact answer on it. What we are saying to most of our landlords that in the event we do have tenants who have genuine hardship, we can't evict them now anyway. So we need to work with them. We are going to be working with them as best as possible. And as I said to you, we've sent a message out to them today telling them that our landlords are also going through as much burden. Also had another one. Obviously, landlords have mortgages that rely on the rent coming in to pay the mortgage. Yes, we're aware of that. I'm a landlord. I'm also a business owner, and I'm also a tenant. I'm going to feel this in all three ways. So I do understand exactly what you're saying. I'm hoping, I don't know that I've provided you, Lisa, any exact answers on that, but I am hoping that you understand we will as soon as we hear any more. Graham, if a tenant can't pay their rent and they are forgiven in full or part, can we recover the forgiven rent eventually, or is it lost to us forever? I would suggest, I think what you're saying is that if you allow a tenant to not pay rent, I'm going to assume that's what you're saying. I would imagine that no, you won't be able to recover it unless it's a part of the initial deal. So we may see circumstances, and again, we haven't gone through it yet. So this is all new to us. This is unprecedented territory, and believe it, we are actually about to go through areas that our current legislation does not cover. And in fact, we're already having to do things that act out against the current legislation. But there is so far in the industry and so far from the governing bodies and the Australian government, there is a general sense of use common sense. So that's the approach we're trying to take, use common sense. If we're going to give rent relief, we will negotiate with you one-on-one and make an assessment on what that looks like. Do we just drop it for a period of time? Is it for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months? Do you hold rent and then look to recover it later? In our opinion, all of those options will be available to you. Do you agree with that, Kirsty?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And we're just going to explore by them each one. Brian, just wanting clarification on the 6-month grace period for tenants. After 6 months, can they be evicted? Brian, we're still in the dark. We don't know 100%. They have given us no rules. In the address last night, I did hear that they were still working on the details on it and that we as an industry would be notified in the next 48 hours. So we're going to stay tuned for that. Our industry body, the REIV, has given us absolutely nothing from it yet. And that's not their fault. They actually just don't have any news on it. So we will keep you posted. Steve, I'm currently getting my rent paid through Sent to Pay. Obviously, this will continue as normal. Yes, it should. Kirsty?
Yes, it will. So for those people who haven't heard of Sent to Pay, that's a direct debit system that comes from Centrelink to us from the tenants' funds, and it will continue as normal from what we've heard so far.
Beautiful. Matt, thanks for all your hard work. Thank you, mate. And actually, can I just say, before we get to the end, the entire panel that's on your left-hand side, they are also feeling the effects of this, and they have worked incredibly hard. So, guys, you should be really proud. You've got an amazing set of property managers working for you. So, Matt, thanks for your hard work. If we haven't heard from you in the last few days, should we assume our tenants are in a positive OK group at the moment? Yes. Believe it or not, look, we manage a by far the largest portfolio in this area, which gives us some great advantages. It gives us also a lot of work. And at the moment, the amount of tenants that are really, one, claiming hardship or two, causing dramas is really minimal. And most of them have been really positive. Kirsty actually told me today that the video we sent out after last night's address, I've got to be honest with you, I was expecting probably some negative commentary from that, because tenants can go very direct to the negative. But they have been great. They actually have been really good. Most of them realise that you as landlords are in it as well. We have reminded them that most of you are what we call mum and dad investors. You own one property and you've mortgaged and you've worked your butts off to own that property so that they can live in it. And at the moment, I have to say the overwhelming majority of tenants have been really quite positive, or at least understanding. There is always going to be a small portion for the landlords that get one or two of those landlords. I apologise. But I also need to ask for some of the landlords that may be not understanding enough. Scott Morrison said it. We all have to burden this pain. As a business, my team and I have spoken about it this morning. I am going to burden a bucket load of the pain in the business, but I need my staff to burden a bit of the pain as well, because we do need to work through this. We need to find our way out. No one's gone through anything like it. And I'm really positive, I'm actually super positive that this will come and go quicker than we expect. It could be 6 months, it could be 12 months, but the initial harshness is going to hurt, but it will come through faster than what we realise. So we do just have to stay positive, and the tenants have been great. Rob, do you have a formal process to determine when a tenant is in default of rent? When a tenant is in default of rent, may need something formal for insurance purposes. Absolutely. So our systems track. Or Kirsty, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so we have an arrears process that starts from when a tenant is 1 day in arrears, and it's all tracked in our system. So every phone call, every message, every email we send to a tenant is all in our system, and that can be provided to an insurance company if need be. And also, very important, I guess, normally that notices are served on time, but that's going to be a bit up in the air at the moment with this 6-month reprieve on evictions. Yep.
So Rob's also asked that the insurance assumes that the bond has been forfeited as the excess. Does this apply within the 6-month moratorium? We're unsure yet at the moment, Rob. We're going to have to work on that and come back to you. Paul, I'm going to try and get through a few more questions quickly, because I am aware that it's now 6:36. And if we don't answer all these questions, guys, I promise you we will come back to you on them. We'll either use them to put into our next topic discussion. We're going to try and do these for you reasonably regularly. How regularly will depend on how often you need us to, and also on your feedback from tonight. Paul, I'm keen to know ASAP if my tenants are having hardship. I'd rather consider lowering the rent sooner than them defaulting on rent payments, or worse, still needing to be evicted. I appreciate the work you're doing, and I hope most tenants are genuine in describing the situation. Mate, thank you. Firstly, we appreciate it. I'm not sure who is your portfolio manager. I will have them reach out to you. So yes, I look, on one hand, I agree with you. And yes, I think sometimes being proactive can be a much better course of action. That being said, we have been advising everyone up until now, and probably still for the next 24 to 48 hours while we digest this latest stimulus package, to just breathe with us. If a tenant reaches out to you, we will contact you immediately. So if your tenant is in distress, they will call us, and make no bones, we will let you know immediately. In the meantime, we just want to work through them one by one, because every tenant is going to be in a different situation. We got to remember that in our economy, not every job is in, there's so many essential services, government bodies. So a lot of our tenants' jobs are beyond secure and will be able to pay rent more than anyone else. So before we just rush out on that, we just need to go through that process. So I'm happy to get our girls to contact you. We'll let you know how your tenants are doing. On that, I think we've only got 2 questions to go, but we did have one emailed into us, which was actually quite similar to how are we going to know who's in duress or not. That's the point of this hardship form. It is to make sure that we understand who is in duress, who is experiencing hardship, and to what level they are. All right, last 2 questions. Are maintenance/trades workers allowed at the property with tenants at home? At the moment, yes. That being said, and Kirsty, I'll hand to you in a second, but we know we have experienced some tenants refusing entry. There's not really a rule to that at the moment. My rule to my team has been, and this was last week, certainly for the next 14 days while this was ridiculously raw, is we want to avoid stress, and we want to avoid causing stress as absolute much as possible. If there is something that we can do that will remove stress levels at the moment, we are going to do it, and we're going to advise it, and we're going to push you as landlords to do the same. But at the moment, maintenance and trade workers are still allowed. Again, most of our tradespeople have reached out to us and told us that they've also implemented their own health and safety strategies. We've also emailed ours, so insisting that they follow the procedures that we do. Kirsty, do you want to touch on that or go over that more?
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing, is that our tradespeople are following the same guidelines we are. If tenants are unwell, I would assume that they won't be attending, but at the moment where they're just checking to make sure, and they're using the same sanitising processes that we are, which is great.
Beautiful. Last question from Sarah. Hi, Peter. Where do we stand with our landlord's insurance on lost rent? I'm going to give that to Kirsty for the moment because there's only so much advice we are allowed to give on landlord's insurance, and you will need to look at your own individual policies. But Kirsty, you just want to give, and we didn't make insurance a topic for tonight because we covered it fairly extensively last week, but also in emails. But can you just maybe give a quick summary for everyone on the current state of insurance?
So we've been speaking to our main providers of landlord insurance, and some of them do have a different take on it to others. So very important to check with your provider and check with your policy. Some of them are saying that if you do reduce the tenant's rent, that then when you make a claim, it will be given at that reduced rent. They won't give it to you at what the rent should have been. But other than that, they're not giving us a lot of advice at the moment. So I would suggest to speak to them directly, but very important that you do have a policy.
Beautiful. First of all, I want to say another big congratulations to that team of panelists. They are amazing workers. They're working very hard for you guys. So big congrats and thank you to my team, now very mobile, working from their home. We are going to wrap up. Listen, we are going to get a survey out to you with about probably 3 questions on it. The more feedback that you can give us at the moment, the better, because the more we know what it is that you're looking for information on. Again, we can't always answer everything, but we are going to answer things as much as we can as we know. So if you can take the chance to fill that survey out, it should pop up as soon as this seminar or webinar or Zoom meeting, whatever you want to call it, as soon as this finishes, a survey should pop up. So if you can hang around, please make sure you do what you can for that. Again, if you have any questions that you need answers on for immediately, don't hesitate to give our team a call. Our property managers are at work. Our offices are still currently open, but even in the event that we're asked to shut or we choose to shut the front door, we have admin team answering the phones, taking calls. Our property managers are working remotely from their homes, and it is as business as usual as we can make. Thank you for all your understanding. We know we had a lot of landlords reach out and thank us for everything we're doing. We appreciate it. We're all in this together, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will speak to you very soon. Thanks for joining.